Well, hello everybody. Hello everybody out there. Welcome to the continuation of the part 4 it is of the 24 hours of amazing marketing, celebrating the launch of the amazing marketing book. This incredible live stream event put together by Mark Schaefer and the Rise community. A special thanks to Ian Gray and Kami and Fiona and everybody out there who has participated so far today. I have to tell you, it has been one heck of a day. Here we are, part 4, which I guess by my math is roughly hour, I don't know, 10 of this so far. Yeah, that makes sense. We're kicking off hour 10, and I'm with you now for the next 3 hours. Jeez, and I am very excited to bring on some incredible guests. Just before we start, I just want to fill you in again that we're going to have some amazing discussions with the authors, or some of the authors, of the most amazing marketing book ever. The most amazing marketing book ever, now available on Kindle, and you can order the softcover as well, the paperback as well. We've just launched this incredible book, 36 authors, 350 fantastic, amazing ideas, and that are sure to set your marketing alight, on fire, ablaze. Choose your metaphor. It is an incredible book. You will not regret checking it out. And, part of that whole thing is today we're going to be speaking to a lot of the authors. And I'm so pleased to have 5 folks lined up for us in the conversation in the next couple hours. And just so you know, you can just grab the Kindle book here. It's only $2.99, a big bargain for those of us who like to read Kindle books. If you do subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, by the way, I believe you can just grab it. Please order the paperback if you have the time, or you want to have something solid and tangible in your hands, like I often do. Excellent. It's an excellent book. You won't regret reading it. It's fantastic. So that said, we have an incredible lineup. So I don't want to keep you too long from the real show. I'm just the host. We've got, again, 5 incredible authors, and the first person, let me just jump right into it. The first one we've got here for you today. I don't even know how I can sing her praises high enough, but video is one of those areas that, if I don't know if you can tell, is a little bit alien to me. I'm more of a writing guy, a sound guy, and this being my first ever real live stream, apart from this morning, I'm really excited to learn more about video. So that's why it's exciting to me to have our first author today, or in this session 4, Laura Doman, the author of Chapter 11, Leveraging Your Videos and YouTube Channel. Laura is a former IT sales exec turned film and TV voice actor, coaching entrepreneurs to become more comfortable and effective on camera themselves. So without further ado, let me just bring in Laura. Laura, hey.
Hey, Dan. How you
There
doing?
you are. I'm playing around with this interesting get up here. I've got so many buttons to push,
Well,
so many options.
you're doing great. It looks wonderful. And
It
hey
looks
to everybody
fantastic.
who's watching.
Hi everybody out there, and please start to throw some participate in the chat, everyone. If you can, share the stream. I promise you, it's going to get better than it started off, and especially now that Laura's on the screen, I can certainly I know it's only going to go up from here. And Laura is, again, is our video expert. She's written a chapter on video and YouTube, and maybe we can start off, Laura, if you can, just fill us in a little bit on what inspired you to get involved with the book, and with being part of the most amazing marketing book ever.
Well, it was a tremendous opportunity to meet and work with so many incredible marketing specialists from really all over the world, and especially with Mark Schaefer, who is helming this entire project. I mean, he is very well known as a marketing strategist and futurist, and an outstanding fellow in his own right. And I've always wanted to be able to contribute to a book. I've published articles and that sort of thing, But to be part of a collaborative effort, be able to join my voice to everybody else's, it was just too exciting not to try to offer my services, and I was delighted to be accepted. So here I am.
Well, no question. You've been a member of the community, and participated. Of course, you've known Mark. Well, how did you meet Mark in the first place? Like how did that come about?
Actually, it was through John Espirian, and John is an amazing LinkedIn coach. He's relentlessly helpful. He even just copyrighted that, and he always talked about Mark Schaefer as his mentor. And so when I heard that Mark was creating his own group on Discord to explore the metaverse and everything else about that, well, I come from the world of technology. I want to know what's going on. I like to stay up to speed with everything. So I jumped in, and that's when he started mentioning, he'd published a number of books on his own, but he always wanted to do a collaborative effort. So when the opportunity came, I raised my hand and said, I'm in if you want me.
And that's the great thing I think so far that we've seen among the authors and among the community is that it was very hard to find people who didn't want to do it. In fact, I think we had the opposite issue where we had so many people raising their hand initially to write a chapter and
Mm.
to become an author here, and I mean myself being one of them. I mean, if anybody was tuning in this morning, I sort of got the ball rolling by in a conversation with Mark. Said, we've got so many great people here, maybe we should write a book together. And he said, okay, well, make it happen. And we all did together, and that's where we are today. And it's just been a privilege to kind of really follow the way this has been developing. Now, but Laura, your specialty is, you wrote the chapter on video and YouTube, and I think for our listeners, I don't want to give away, and our watchers, I don't want to give away too much here, but essentially your chapter is about how to stand out, how to create great videos, and I think the word is scroll stopping marketing videos. So can you tell us a little bit about the key takeaways from your chapter, and what you think, without, of course, giving away the store, what you think folks should take away, or at least expect when they open the book?
I'd be delighted to. And I'm actually writing about two different things, videos and YouTube. And it kind of makes sense because I'm a Gemini, so I'm used to doing more things at once. Because I do on camera, I do voiceover. It's always a balance. And these two are meant to be together. It is truly a marriage. Now, I'm not going to talk so much about tips for what content you should create. That would be somebody totally different. I'm focusing instead on those techniques that come from the entertainment world to really be able to get you comfortable on camera, first of all, because so many people are scared to death of it. And then how to be able to allow dynamic delivery to really create a more charismatic delivery, to be able to really bring people in so that they do want to stop and watch you. And then I'll give a few tips about YouTube itself and how you can leverage your channel. Well, the number one thing that I would suggest when you're about to talk to camera is just to imagine you're talking to one person. And now this is true if you're an actor, this is going to be true if you're doing voiceover, or even if you're a public speaker, especially when you're dealing with one little green light or red light or whatever you're looking at the other end. It's going to make you feel more comfortable because, in essence, people do not want to be preached to. They don't want somebody talking at them. They want a conversation. And that's what's in vogue in so many different commercials, whether it's on camera or in voiceover. They want to feel like you have something to share and you're not just pushing something on them. If it helps, put a picture of a good friend, maybe even a spouse or a sibling, or if you got a good relationship, put your mother on there. Somebody you feel like you can tell the story to. Another tip would be to make sure you're totally relaxed before you even get on the camera, because we hold so much tension in our bodies. And there are exercises for the head as well as for the body itself. Just a few really quick ones. Just moving your head in a circle each way, raising, lowering eyebrows,
I'm gonna go with you.
smiling large.
I'm going with you on this one.
There you go, I see
Yeah.
ya. Smiling large like a cartoon and frowning. You can do all kinds of silly noises and tongue twisters just to get that mouth going. Raise, lower your shoulders.
What's your favorite tongue twister? Do you have one that you do, Laura?
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I'm in an improv group and we do this every time. Let's see. Whether the weather is cold or whether the weather is hot, we'll be together, whatever the weather, whether we like it or not. Well, that's
Whoa!
something most people haven't heard. You might have
Glad we're
heard about
recording this one.
the big black bug, and the blue blood, and then there's Unique New York. But I kinda
Unique New
like the
York.
weather because I'm always been into the weather.
I like the Laurence Olivier used to do one before he went on, and of course he's British, so it was harder for him. But for us Americans, I like this one. Betty Butter bought a bit of butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But if a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So Betty Butter bought a bit of better butter, and it made her batter better.
You got it. And you
Yeah.
can even say Mississippi frontwards and
Woo!
backwards, which
I
if you
can't do
learned
that.
as a kid, MISSIPPII, PBISSISSIM. I mean, whatever it gets, you're going.
By the way, this is the first time ever on audio or video I think I've ever done the Betty Botter bit. So thanks for bringing that out in me, Laura. You're inspiring me a little bit here.
You did well.
But please continue because it's just getting started in video, and
Oh,
those
yeah.
tips I think are those. It's such an important hurdle I think that people have to get over. And you mentioned being relaxed before you get on, and like I
Oh,
mean, I
yeah.
think I was checking all the "don't do this" boxes before I got on to this live stream. Hey, here's a live stream today, and it's hysterical. Daddy's got it's hysterical. Ian, we have some comments here. Ian says, "I love Daddy's got a head like a ping pong ball to the tune of the
That's a good one.
Tell or for overture."
Well, we're gonna have to put Ian on the spot. I'd like to hear him do that.
Absolutely. Ian, I'm going to refrain from doing this out of deference to the crowd and out of deference to you. I will not punish anyone further. But this is just a tremendous. It's great. That's so funny. If anybody has any interesting tongue twisters to share, please go ahead. But meantime, Laura, so
Yes.
getting back to getting ready for video. What should you be doing? I was not relaxed when I started this off today, in case you can't tell. Uh, but yeah, I love jumping into things and making stuff happen. But no, not everybody's like that, right? So,
Mm-mm.
so
You
what
know
else
what?
can they do?
Well, first of all, move your body. Unless you're
Mhm.
doing something first thing in the morning, take a walk. Do push-ups or sit-ups. Do those exercises. Or if you don't know anything and you just don't feel comfortable doing them, breathe in to the count of 4. Hold for about 4 seconds and then breathe out twice as long. You'll feel the tension just sort of drain away. Um, and then again, practice. The more you do it, the better off you are. And we got these handy dandy little devices. So if the
Mm,
camera lens and a
I've seen
big
those.
production studio, if that's what you're working with, scares you, you don't need to worry about anything. Practice it and just get used to seeing what you look like. And then don't worry about what you look like. We all are
Mm.
so concerned. Oh my gosh, and the hair and the makeup or the clothing or how old I am, whatever. Nobody cares. The honest truth is nobody cares. They
Yeah.
want to hear your message. They want to hear you. And that's also why AI is not going to take our jobs away.
Right.
It's a tool because the most important thing we have to do is to communicate, connect, person to person, human to human. And it doesn't matter what you look like. You could be wearing curlers and your hair sticking out straight or no hair at all. And people don't care.
Well,
They want to know
people,
you.
yeah, they like authenticity. They like to see you being
Yes.
you, and I hope so because that's my modus operandi here. Is if that's what I am. Although I will say that I was a little bit worried about the way I looked getting on before I got on screen. So it was a hot, sweaty day. I was wearing a dark shirt. You can imagine what
Oh,
that
you
might
look
have been.
gorgeous.
But now I'm seeing
Marvelous.
that part. I'm actually only the upper part here, so I didn't even have to change after all, and
Yeah.
nobody probably would have cared.
Don't
Um,
just don't stand up. You're good.
I am good, but apart from that, it seems that what you do to get started doesn't seem to be actually that hard. But what about what you have? So you mentioned a phone. I mean, one of the things that we've learned recently about AI, of course, is that there are certain production items and certain things in editing and production that AI can really help us with, and there's certain things that it might ruin and kind of create monstrosities on our behalf. But apart from that, is there what do people need to get started in to make standout videos?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to create something with a lot of flash and pizzazz, it may not do as well as something that somebody just records in their backyard, positioning themselves in the sun properly, and that's it. Again, the idea is authenticity and believability. If you're going to be using the phone, there are 2 different ways that you would consider using it. If you're making something for social media, something short, 60 seconds or less, like YouTube Shorts or LinkedIn Shorts or whatever, just use the phone in the basic portrait mode. But if you're going to create a video that's more than 1 minute, that's going to live for a while, let's say on YouTube, that is going to be shown on a bigger screen, you're going to want to be able to put it in the landscape mode. Very important. And that's just because we as human beings see this way. We have our peripheral vision, and therefore we take it all in. And that's what we're more comfortable with for a longer period of time. The other thing you're going to need to make sure of is proper lighting. Now, there's indoor lighting and there's outdoor lighting. If you're going to be indoors, you do want to have something that is going to illuminate the area around you. And you have to make sure it's not too bright or not too dark, and watch out for shadows. Ring lights are great. You might want to position them so that the little circle is not reflected in your eyes, and there are covers for those. But you can get anything from inexpensive production box lights, soft box lights, or LED panels, to the smaller ring lights. The other item that you need to be careful of would be sound. You want to make sure you're not in an echoey space. Right now, for example, I'm in my voiceover studio because it's kind of flat, it's dead, and it's not going to have a lot of echoing. If you're going to
Yeah.
be in a place with a lot of wood or a big cavernous room, let's say, you're going to have echoes, which can be quite distracting. In that case, you're going to want to dampen it with all types of rugs or hanging blankets or other things. You're going to want to use perhaps a lapel mic, maybe a boom mic that comes from above. But you don't need to get fancy. All you really need is a camera, a good ring light or so, and a backdrop that doesn't compete with you or your message. Now, if you're outside, you're not going to want to have the sun behind you because that's going to blind everybody and the camera. Instead, try to position so that you are facing the sun or the sun is off to the side, and that'll give a natural light. So again, you can just use your camera and just say, okay, I got the best light, boom, and you're ready to go. And those are the essentials, plus video software, and there's all kinds of editing software that you could choose from.
Yeah, I mean, we can always imagine and create all the barriers, right? That's going to keep us from doing things. And I've even learned during this process here with the live streaming that there really aren't that many. If you have a webcam and a mic, and I hear you on the sound. To me, like obviously I podcast, so sound has always been the most critical part of the whole, I guess, of all the equipment for me. And like, so I make sure that I have a decent mic on a decent arm, so I don't get a lot of reverberation. But I'm not exactly paying close attention to my studio, although I have a carpet, so that helps a lot. But you're right. Like you have to. I think people just need to just do some of the minimum things, and
Doesn't have to be
increases
fancy.
the quality by leaps and bounds.
I mean,
Very high return.
I use a corner of a guest bedroom when I'm doing a lot of my videos, and I got a lot of videos on YouTube. Let me also tell you one other big tip that's rather important, and that is the frame of the video. The frame is what the camera sees, the box that we are both in right now. And it's very important to realize that small can be huge on camera. Any small movement gets magnified because we don't think we're moving much an inch, and next thing you know, woohoo, we're off screen. Same thing, you don't want to move your hands too wildly if you're a hand talker because that could be distracting. So you also want to learn how to be able to keep yourself within the box you're in, and how to be able to project a 3D person in 2D space.
And this is all like, it's incredible. We got a comment from Sandy, who, by the way, had an incredible session earlier today on promotional goods. But dampening the space was a challenge for most of us recording our chapters for the Audible book. I know I went into my closet to do it. LOL. I've heard a lot of stories about people hiding or going into their closets, or putting blankets over themselves to get it. But the point is that you don't need more than what you already have to create a high quality sound. And thanks for that, Sandy.
Yeah.
That's an important point.
See, now that's important if you're going to be doing audio, because that's the only sense that's really engaged.
Sure.
And people can hear every mouth click. They can hear every echo. When you're doing video, you're getting both the sight and the sound. So you can manage it, but it's also a little bit more forgiving when it comes to audio.
Yeah. And it's I think it would be hilarious for people to forget that they had their camera off and record themselves with blanket over themselves. And I'm sure that's happened before. So maybe somebody go out there, do
Yeah,
YouTube search for that.
tell you all about
Um,
it. I travel with my voiceover equipment. And thank you, Ian. Ian recognizes the Adobe Audition waveform from a
there it
recent
is.
voiceover audition. I thought it made a
Yeah.
nice backdrop.
I use Audition as well. And what is that? What is that sound? Does anybody out there know what the sound pattern is? If you can guess it, no. What is the sound pattern, Laura? I don't know if anybody could see that on site. Is that for
Oh,
anything
well,
particular?
probably you can. It just looks like your voice going loudly and softly, and then these are the patterns. After a while, you can tell where your breaths are. You can recognize them, so you can minimize them. But you probably can't read it like you would read music and just play it. But after a while, you do get to recognize what an S looks like, or especially if you pop your P's. Woohoo! It looks like
Oh, yeah.
poo. Not a
Yeah,
pretty
and
sight.
that's a great point. But we have a great comment or question here from our audience. I think that's Alexandra wants to know: are there any tricks for us hand movers to keep our hands more still
Yes.
without looking wooden and without the audience seeing the
Yes.
trick being used?
In fact, I've got a whole video on that on my YouTube channel. First of all, I would ask you, what is your frame going to be? Are you going to be a talking head where you're basically just from the upper chest up? Are you waist up? Or are you full body? Now, if you're a big hand talker, and I tend to be pretty energetic myself, if you know that you're not going to be seeing the hands, let's say the frame is kind of where we are right now, from about chest up, maybe a little bit more. I can still express myself, but I might keep my hands down below. I'm not going to move my arms too much. I don't want to be stiff as a board like a wooden soldier because then that translates to tightness everywhere and it just looks unnatural. But I can move. I can use my hands and just move them a little more slowly. So if I were to show them, I might explain this. Or if I am making my points, count them out 1 or 2 or 3. And if I really need to lean in, that's perfectly natural. Natural's fine. Spastic, not such a great look.
I've had these experiences where, I work in corporate communications and sometimes we have to do videos and I often kind of coach people on how to behave on video. But then when it comes to me, I've been told by some of my coworkers, Dan, sit on your hands, sit on them, sit on your hands right now. And it's
Yeah.
hysterical because, you then are forced to kind of tighten up. And then I have a wheelie chair, of course, and I'm it's taking a lot of focus and effort not to spin and shift around right now. So it's kind of miraculous that I'm
Well,
actually focused on you.
and you need to get what I'm sitting on. It's a backless stool.
Oh,
I think I picked it up at Bed Bath& and Beyond before they went bankrupt, like for a vanity, but it doesn't move. You're not going anywhere, and you're forced to sit up a little straighter and not fidget so much or slouch because there's no back. Now, if you're doing this for a long period of time, you might consider a more comfortable chair. But in the meantime, it's a great way to be able to make it look like you're standing even if you're sitting.
that's a
And
great tip.
by the way, I
That's a
got
great
another
tip.
video about that one too.
Okay.
The question is, do you stand or sit for video? And I'll answer it for you right now. Bonus round.
How
The
do you
idea
do? Yeah.
the ideal is if you can stand.
Hmm.
Why? You're more natural in your body and you're going to have a lot more energy.
You can project. You can
Unless
project your voice
and you
better
can
too.
project, not too loudly because otherwise you might blow out the mic. The only reason you might want to sit is if you physically can't stand. You're going to be doing it for a long period of time. Whatever you're doing calls for you to sit. Or it's just uncomfortable. You just are just too awkward. And then whatever floats your boat is really what it goes down to.
That's being natural, like whatever floats your boat. Being natural is, I think,
Yeah.
critically important. I'd love to do. I have stood before doing my podcast, but I moved my standing desk someplace else, so I'm a little bit kind of stuck to seating right now. And then thank you, Valentina, by the way, for chiming in and appreciate that. Both fun and learning so much. I hope so. I certainly am listening to Laura here. It's like a little
Oh,
crash course for me. That's what I love about this book is that every chapter is a crash course and like some incredible tips, and you're getting some of them from Laura. But believe me, it is just the tip of the iceberg here. And we have another question here from Alexandra. I think it's Alexandra. Any tricks for speakers with very
yes.
overly expressive faces?
Wow, I'm so
That's a good
glad
one.
you asked. I'm very expressive, which is why I get a lot of commercial work for that, especially if I'm just no lines and they just want, let's say, a patient or a customer reacting to something really weird going on. Be expressive. Nobody wants to see a wooden face.
Yeah.
Be yourself. And in fact,
Be
you might even get more viewers because you'll just be so darn entertaining.
I love that advice. Be Jim Carrey if you're Jim Carrey, or just be Alexandra if you're Alexandra.
Yeah,
Show your true self in
right.
video, and I guess people that's the takeaway here. I mean, I can't believe we've already gone so far along in this in our half hour. Before we run out of time, I wanted to ask you a couple more things, Laura, and
Sure.
maybe the first thing is like, what are the essential kind of skills, or what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in this business? And maybe you can focus on video or just in marketing in general. What our listeners out there, our viewers out there, come from all over the spectrum. So what advice would you
Okay.
give?
I would say focus on your message. There is a reason, a purpose, and that's usually because you have something to offer. Maybe it's some information, maybe it's some advice. Who knows what it might be? But say it from your heart. Know what you're going to say before you say it. Be able to concisely explain what you're going to be saying, and then repeat it afterwards. I mean, this is basics of writing or public speaking, and then all the other tips that I mentioned. But then it just comes down to practice and getting comfortable with the medium. We all had to get comfortable with pen and paper once upon a time,
Sure.
and then computers or learning how to drive a car. And I would just try to stop criticizing yourself. We are all our worst critics. We judge ourselves relentlessly, and we're much harder than anybody else. One advantage to being older is the older you get, you worry less about what other people think, but it'll still creep up on you. So I would just focus on your message, get comfortable in your body the way I suggested, and just get to know the camera. And if you're not sure how to do that with a little blinking light, put a picture of a good friend there to make you think, hey, you got this.
I love that idea of putting a picture out there, like setting your own frame and your own mindset. You mentioned something that's really, I think, that comes up again and again, which is, you know, just put yourself out there, right? Like, don't worry, and just do it.
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing. Uh, it's hard to do
Impossible.
that though. How like
Yeah.
to get over that hump, and like to because a lot of us do have are self-conscious or worried about video, especially video. And video is, I think, a huge leap, a bigger leap for many people than other
Mhm.
medium or other media. If that's the case, putting a picture of somebody familiar is a really great trick. But how do you how would you advise people to almost train their mind so that they can shift and understand that, wait a second, people, I have a story to tell, I have a voice,
Mhm.
and I have there's a reason people want to see me, and those are the people I'm talking to. What would be the mindset shift, and how would it happen?
I would start as the early days of YouTube. Not that I would
Hmm.
put this out there, but just record yourself for about a minute talking about your day. Or better yet, and this doesn't hurt with everything else in your life, just say the one thing that you're grateful about from the day. One good thing that happened. Even if it was, hey, I sharpened my pencil or I tied my shoes. Just get used to saying it to the camera. You might even have a video journal so it makes you feel better. But you'll find over time that you're just expressing yourself. And again, you're focusing on what you have to say. It comes from the heart and you're being your real self. And don't be afraid of being silly or goofy. I mean, and have fun with it because honestly, people are not judging you. Imposter syndrome is real. We all feel
Yeah.
like, oh, what are we doing here? But the more you do it, the better off you get. Truly.
And I was just about to ask you, do you have any last words? But those are great words to sort of, I think, close out this what has been a really incredible session, and a brave one for you, coming on as being my first guest in this 3 hours. And I'm afraid I know who's come. I know we have Rob up next, so we're only bound to go downhill from this point forward. I'm very sorry to our viewers out there, but obviously I'm kidding. I kid. The book is the most amazing marketing book ever, and the chapter that we're talking about here is Laura's chapter on video. Leveraging your videos and YouTube channel, by Laura Doman. Please check her out, and if you are, of course, watching us now, you can buy the book right there, right? And if you missed this, you can always go to the Instant Replay Hub and see all the videos and all the live streams that we've done today. So on that note, everybody, please go ahead and head over to hit the QR code, pick up the book.
I'll
Laura,
say it. Click the buy button already.
click the buy button. All right, Laura, thank you so much. I think there's so many tips about video, but you can learn a lot more by reading her chapter in the most amazing marketing book ever. Laura, thank you so much. It was good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Dan. I've really enjoyed it.
All right.
Bye-bye,
thank
everyone.
you.
Enjoy.
Bye. Okay. What an incredible first session. Laura Doman, video. I mean, this is the way the book goes, folks. There's amazing people with amazing tips. I learned a thing or two. I hope everyone out there also learned a thing or two. One thing I forgot to ask Laura is, what do you do about dry mouth? Because I'll tell you, that's a problem for me even when I podcast. And I was just, I'm wondering if that is water. Thank you, Laura. Just timed this at water, which is exactly what I'm doing. A little bit of water. Everybody bear with me. It's a 3-hour gig, folks. Thank you so much. So I think that on that note, again, there's you can pick up the book over there, and let me just bring us back into the next part of our session, where I am just so pleased to bring on, and after the big buildup I had before that things are going to go downhill from here, obviously that is not the case. We have another incredible author coming on. Let me bring him in. Rob, there you are.
Hey Dan, how
Rob,
are you?
How are you? It's good to see you again.
Excellent. I'm trying to ignore your great intro you had for me that set me up for a little bit of failure.
Well, I mean,
what can you do?
Rob, you're the owner of Road 55 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and you began your career in the newspaper industry, of all places, and now using the tools of digital, social, and traditional media, you create content that connects. I mean, it's very simple and straightforward. And your chapter in the book, of course, is all the good old stuff: newspapers, billboards, and radio. I love this chapter, and I have to say, I know it's in it because I edited it. I was one of your editors, and I found your voice to be exciting and interesting and funny, and thinking about, geez, we're talking about marketing, modern marketing, the most amazing marketing book ever, and in case you missed it, you can get it right there. There's your code, your QR code, the most amazing book. I'm having a lot of fun with the buttons, people. I will tell you that. It's so much fun.
Scan that code, people.
Love it. Scan the code. But we think about marketing. We think about all the different things that folks are, concerned with these days. Digital this, and all the different the chapters that we have in the book are a good list of what concerns marketers, what marketers should be concerned about. But while people out there are focusing their time on TikTok and video, let's not forget there is a whole world of media out there that still has a lot of use. And Rob, I'm going to ask you, first I'm going to ask you, what is the correct way to pronounce your last name? Notice I did not do that on purpose. And
totally missed it. Rob Lulisher.
Rob Lulisher.
So yeah, I'm fourth generation Edmontonian. The French has kind of been beaten out of us at this point out in Western Canada. But
well, thanks for
good to be here, Dan.
Thanks for that. I'll remember that, I think. And we want to talk with you now about Walking with Dinosaurs, which is the chapter
Walking with Dinosaurs
of your
try not to insult any of my friends, former peers, still in the industry. But when I started Road 55, it was really built on the premise that there were no silver bullets left, and there was no cheating your way to connecting with audiences. And we talk lots about traditional, digital, social, and kind of, I say, spoiler alert, it takes a little bit of everything. And that was my approach to this chapter. I got handed the up and coming categories of newspaper, radio, and billboards, and long forgotten for some. But I took an approach that I used Walking with Dinosaurs in the analogy of they're not quite extinct yet. Yeah, they've been pelted pretty good by the meteor shower, meteor shower. Yes, say that. Peter Piper picked a pack of.
Are we doing tongue twisters every session?
Well, I heard the earlier ones. That's the only one I know. So
gotta drink more water.
I don't want to embarrass myself any further. This is I'll drink water too.
Yeah, man.
Little branding shout out for a moment.
Oh well, as you know, you have your own. If you're focusing on the dinosaurs of marketing, maybe you should hold your cup up a little bit more. That
but
said,
that there's still value. There's still value there, Dan. And I think if you kind of look at some of these offerings in a new way, and that there's still a great opportunity to connect with audiences. And I think one of the biggest changes that I joke, as an old newspaper guy, I wish for the days where there were like 3 options in town.
Sure.
Pick one. If you want to talk to these people, it's through us. There's 1,000 options these days, but just looking at things, common throughout, as I talked about the 3 different media, I said a big part of it is respecting the customer journey. And I when I say that, when I first got into the business, when someone looking at a newspaper ad, give it to me top to bottom. I need every ounce of information that I can get out of this ad, because I'm not going anywhere else. And people understanding and respecting that customer journey and realizing that they are not stopping at that ad. Or that radio spot. They're going to carry on from there. So what can you do that, with a creative twist, definitely just sparks that opportunity to either start the journey or to kind of carry them a little further down that journey, but realizing they are going to make a few more stops along the way. So get rid of this. I don't need your fax number. I don't need your address and phone number and all these things. I joke on the Billboard one. One of my editors, not naming names, but Dan Nessel, took it out. I made a great, what was it? The Holy Grail reference about the 5 shall be the number, and that yeah, no more, no less, but just really focusing on the tightness of the message and like that impact, and knowing that they are going to go on from there. And let them go on. And but for those who are trying to pack everything in like you used to 20 years ago,
right,
those messages are absolutely destined for failure, in my opinion.
I like the way that you even just now described those medium, the dinosaurs, shall we say, the newspapers, billboards, and radio, really more like way stations on the way, or enablers of the journey. If marketers are smart and know how to capture those particular audiences, like radio, there's no doubt that in some markets, radio is massive. I mean, I'm here in New Jersey, and I learned not too long ago. I mean, I lived abroad for the largest part of my adult life, and then came back here 12 years ago, and I was just amazed at how much I was hearing on the radio, and then I learned that the little corner of the world that I live in is the most populated radio drive time zone, and people on their commutes, you have to get the phone number in, you got to get everything in, and those radio ads, they work, right? Nowadays, I think people are sending. There's different destinations, but it's still happening. What I wanted to really what I wanted to go. Look at this. Hang on. So there's a great comment from Sandy here. Hey now, branded promos still work well. It's true, of course, Sandy. It's true. Good techniques, good. What's worked in the past doesn't always work now, but sometimes everything old is new again tends to be a theme, doesn't it, Rob? I mean, we have different ways of using the media, as you point out in your chapter. But it's, a
lot of nothing's free anymore, right? We went through this period of the organic lift was so good on digital and social that, no doubt when dollars shifted dramatically out of the traditional media. I argue with people to this day. They're like, oh, no one's reading the newspaper. I'm like, there is no readership problem at all.
Yeah.
They've never had more readers in the existence of their products. They have a revenue problem.
Right.
All the revenue has moved out because it's not in this one handy little package anymore. But, now that we're back to the world of $20 per 1,000, I just use that as doesn't matter if that's Facebook or in a radio spot or, kind of go into it with that expectation. It brings back that opportunity to, in many respects, it's probably harder to stand out digitally
right
today. And a friend of mine, he said it a few years ago, but it's so true today. You want to stand out with someone, write them a letter, and hit them where they ain't. How often do they get that, that type of a connection. And I think the same holds true in some of these other medias where, no, don't abandon them. There's still some great tacks that you can use it and move the dial.
More and more, I think we're seeing, more and more we're seeing that kind of personal touch, that analog approach work. There's no, I'm sure that I don't remember which of our authors was talking about direct mail, but I think it was Larry. But anyway, like I feel like the traditional methods and everything old is new again, are actually, they do help you stand out more. I was reading this morning even that someone is suggesting doing a print magazine.
Yep.
I haven't seen anybody ever get a promotion or a raise by suggesting a print magazine, at least not in the last 20 years. And, that might account for why we don't have more of them, but there's something to that, right? I love getting my magazines in the mail. Look at that. And there's, you do a print magazine.
I have my own magazine for our company.
Yeah.
And to share a fun story. We do it 5 times a year. It's in the world of print on demand, the opportunity is great to do products like this, but it's about making that impact. And we shipped out the first one, and an old client got it and hadn't talked to him in a while, and he calls me, a magazine. Why would you make a magazine? And I paused for a moment and I asked, why are you calling me? And he laughed, and it was like just this instant realization of I had created that contact with him in this old traditional way.
After he stopped feeling a little bit manipulated by the phone call. Yeah.
Totally.
It's such a good point, though. I mean, and I was going to ask you, are there any really great examples of recent successes that you could point to using these more traditional methods, at least among? And you just mentioned your own magazine. Are there any others you can think of, or anything that kind of stands out in your mind about an interesting use case?
I think I bring attention to all the traditional media companies are trying to sell everything under the sun that is new, digital, social, and they have budgets. They have to move that product. And when you realize that, so I do talk quite a bit in my chapter about leveraging, your purchasing opportunity. And don't be afraid to ask. I'm not saying it's going to work with everyone, but going into the conversation with, okay, I'm willing to buy my social through you, my digital through you. They have to be transparent in it. And back to my joke of $20 per 1,000. They got to be within reason on a cost structure, or they know that they're totally out of the game. But you may be able to leverage the part of that buy to say, hey, why don't you throw in some radio spots for me? Why don't you throw in some print ads for me? And so I think it's a really cool opportunity when it comes to leverage. And then we've joked lots out of the pandemic, the good old QR code, the greatest comeback in the history of comebacks. And again, respecting that customer journey. And I talk about this, and I'm going to say it here too. This scan our QR code to learn more. My gosh, go away with that. Okay, we have an offer here. Get the Kindle. Get it.
It's now. It's like the magic word. I forget the kids show. You say the magic word, I'm going to show the picture.
Dan's got his buttons, the backroom buttons there. But make them want to scan that. Make them want to find out that next bit of information, surprise them, entertain them, inform them, do all these things that again, not just you're going to go on that next journey, but we're really going to make sure that you're going on it. And then with that too, I talk about, give the old media the hero points that they deserve. And that QR code doesn't need to be attached to a generic URL. Yeah. You can go into Google, you can get a URL builder, and you can associate a specific URL to that QR code. So when you run that print ad, you can go into your analytics after the fact and say, holy heck, I had 12 people clicked on, whatever the number is, but at least because the answer before was 0. And attribution is such a big part of, if I can't attach A to B, I'm not talking to you at all. Even though we've all learned to realize that it just doesn't work that way. It's not that easy.
In the field that I come from, or more recently come from, because I've been really an integrated marketer across marketing communications my whole life, and I've done plenty of print, especially in Japan. Print was still huge when I started out, but these days more on the earned media side of things, and earned media is very focused on getting space in whatever media you're talking about, and traditionally newspapers or magazines. And even until this day, there are some people out there who use a metric called AVE. Have you ever heard of AVE? It's advertising value equivalent. Right?
Okay.
And the advertising value equivalent, for example, of a byline or a puff piece featuring Rob on the New York Times front page. Somebody say, "Oh, the AVE of that is $4.5 million."
Probably next week's
right?
edition.
Yeah.
Yep.
So $4 million. So then you go to they go to their CEO or their CFO and they say, "See, the amount of money we spent to get coverage in the New York Times worth it because it's $4 million worth of AVE." The most nonsensical, ridiculous measurement of all time, perhaps, designed, I think, to deliberately deceive in my mind. But I know there's folks out there who will disagree. Yep. That said, I have a position on it. That said, it is based on old media. And when you're measuring, it's to the point of attribution. Everybody wants to attribute some success to themselves or to their team, want to keep their budget. Or if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you actually just need to really see the value of the investments you're making and believe what your partners are telling you. So in these days, it sounds like, well, I know because I read your chapter, but it's not about using the old media. It's about connecting that media as part of the new media ecosystem. So it's you're almost a transformational figure here, Rob. Or writing transformationally, or asking people to look at things in a very different way, and I found that to be quite useful in your chapter. And so I was just thinking about like what I took away from that, and if you were going to tell your readers, just like what are the top 2 or 3 takeaways if you look at it in aggregate without giving away the whole store, if you haven't covered already, what would those be? Not necessarily that AVE sucks, but like what would the real takeaways be?
Well, you made a great point of almost in all 10 points. I thought with the mindset of attaching that journey, that these were not standalone options, like they were going to be, hey, if you have $100 left, that's a terrible example, but if in your budget, just do this one thing, I would say no. But do these things together, connecting the dots from the traditional media to some of the new ways that you're approaching things. I think you have a great opportunity there. Leverage is definitely a key. I talk about things, not that there's many of them left, but the old promotions departments of the newspapers and radio, and throw on your creative hat and approach them and kind of with a partnership mentality of like, look, these are my goals. This is what I'm trying to do. I can bring 10 grand to the table, but that 10 grand can equate to the traditional media. And as I said before, hey, give me some digital, give me some social, give me the digital front in there. Hey, your disc jockeys have their own podcasts, I noticed. Do you think that we might be able to, cross over into, okay, now all of a sudden the campaign's bridging into the world of podcasts, and so that leveraging by asking, and don't be afraid to ask, but it comes with a lot of us old media people are lazy. I pick on my old journalist friends. You put a good idea in front of them, and your chances go up tenfold. If you expect them to fully come up with the angle and the approach, it's tough sledding, as we say up here in Canada. You got sleds down there in Jersey?
I've seen one or two.
Okay, just wanted to check.
I've ridden 1 or 2 in my life. I went as a kid, certainly, recently and not as much, but yeah, big fan. That tough sledding it describes a lot of the struggles are a lot of the kind of parts of our work that we have to deal with, because it's changing all the time. It really is. And I got to admire or think about the staying power of old media. I mean, billboards in particular. Somebody had mentioned in the comments. Sandy. Sandy said that yeah, I drive a lot. I read billboards along the highways, and they still work. There's movies about billboards, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like there's no question billboards work for the right message, right? But
there's that
yeah.
tangibleness too of this cost money.
Mm-hmm.
And this took a real effort to print this paper, put up the billboard, all that. And it's kind of that one act alone separates it and differentiates it from, look at the fake world out there of gosh, people are trying to fool us daily on I'm a big brand, whether they're trying to scam us or trying to believe us it's some 15-year-old in the basement who's trying to impress upon us like they're some gigantic corporation.
That's right.
Well, a full page ad in the newspaper or a billboard, that takes all of that out to play. So it does add to that a bit of that authoritative type approach of who the company is, the brand, and again, not everything. Don't sink it all there, but just one more reason to consider it as part of your buy.
Yeah, I would think again, especially if you're a B2B person, you're not going to get fired for choosing a company that advertises in the New York Times necessarily or the Wall Street Journal. But if you make a purchasing decision based on an Instagram ad you see, you might be in a little bit of trouble. Even though the Instagram ad might be the right choice for your company, I'm not going to denigrate that, but you just don't know who's behind it or what's behind it. And that's true. But it is quite a price differential in all those different media. I just like the way that, each version of these media, especially like if you go back to the Ogilvy days, or you go back to like the classic copywriters, or even like the lessons that we can learn from them, some of the things that we've seen from some incredible word of mouth campaigns with billboards, it's all about storytelling, isn't it? And these particular media, I think, give you a different kind of storytelling opportunity. What do you think about that?
Very much. It still
Leading
falls
question.
under the give, like providing value, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about it lots, and I really enjoy messaging that talks about the capturing intent and creating intent. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of B2B work here, and at any given time, whatever your market is, whether you're selling donuts or tires or insurance, the vast majority of the marketing world was focused on capturing that intent, the I need to buy tires, and everyone dives in and they're scrapping out for that 3 to 5% of the market. But here's this giant audience, this 95% that currently has no intent. So if you're trying to speak to them with messages as if they had intent, you'll never connect with them. But if you create that content that has value for it, and be it audio or even on the give us your 6-word short story billboard, like have some fun, create that, but again, not treating every engagement as if they're going to jump into your purchase bucket. And that's where I look for those opportunities. I talk lots where spreading it out, because again, rarely seen that hero approach that, just do this one thing. Because frankly, if it does do that one thing, believe you me, everyone else is going to discover it in short order. They're going to jump in, and in our world, auction-based advertising, prices go up, engagement goes down, and you're right back to square one of that traditional funnel, the awareness, the engagement, conversion, and taking that approach and doing things as if you're going to be in business 5 years from now. Nothing drives me nuttier than that transactional hack. I'm sorry. Yeah. I know you can hack your way to today to tomorrow with certain things, but really, if you hold no equity with anyone in however you choose to communicate to them, it puts all the pressure on your price. Is it faster? Right. Is it bluer? It's just all of those things. That's the only part of the value proposition to that. Now you can win, and I'm not saying that you won't. However, if that's the only part of your value proposition, I believe the Amazons and the Googles, they will figure out how to get to them before you do. And I feel that way with Skip the Dishes. The food delivery, where if you're not branding your menu, if people aren't ordering their menu, eventually they're just going to figure out how to, oh, you want a steak sandwich? Don't care what brand, or okay, we'll make your steak sandwich, and it's just going to come from the generic.
I mean, you see the proliferation of commodity items and generic brands and copycats. Like, it's unbelievable on places like Amazon and those platforms, where I'm going to insinuate without proof, but there is certainly plenty of let's say extraneous clicking going on, and reviews being done for like 100 products that are exactly the same. And I think, it's a disservice. And, I love Sandy. Thanks so much. This conversation is brilliant.
Thank you, Sandy.
That is, that's the highest praise that we could hope for. And,
the day's young, Dan.
The day's young. I still have a little ways ahead of me, but, like before, we're about, the last couple of minutes here, Rob. And, if you're, you went from being a newspaper man and then on into general marketing, and I know that you offer a lot of services as part of what you do, and lest our watchers or viewers and listeners get misled, Rob is not only about the dinosaurs of media. Rob covers the whole gamut of content creation. But that said, understanding the broad kind of swath of experience and client time and journalist time that you've had, how would you advise somebody getting into this industry, getting into marketing, or even being a marketer or a communicator? How would you advise them to get started and to avoid certain pitfalls, or what should they look out for?
Yeah, I think here's with the gray hair, one of us old dinosaurs, where I started the company with that. All of a sudden, I woke up one morning, I had all this experience with traditional digital social. And I think to anyone starting today is don't discount anything. Try and get that understanding, because what is an amazing tool today can quite easily fall out of favor tomorrow. And if you don't have that understanding how to use that tool, but again, back to within that journey, and I think the journey is such a big part. And putting that I know Mark talks about this all the time, the human component, the community approach, definitely. And when I talk about avoiding everything that we can, the hack your way in, and trying that long lens, that is definitely the approach to it. And the last minute or two here, just to share that was kind of my entry point to this project.
Yeah, please.
Where is that community approach. It was a year ago. I was at the CEX conference, and Mark was a speaker, and I was, who's this guy? I've never seen him, heard him, listened. And he was chatting with Joe Polizzi, and I followed Joe for the longest time, and just loved it. And so kind of reached out and became part of Mark's Rise community. And so last summer we took on one heck of a journey. I wish, Dan, you and I had met, because actually Big Chad and I, we had dinner in New York City last summer. My wife and I and our little guy, we did a 10,000 mile journey in our van, 25 states. As they say, 3,000 miles to Graceland. We went a little bit further, and we were a little bit more east. Mark just put out in this community that he had allowed me to be part of, hey, why don't you come see me in Knoxville?
Yeah.
So I'm in Nashville, couple-hour drive from there. My wife, when are you coming home? I said, when Mark tells me to leave. I don't know. So I drove there, and a few hours later, I'm having lunch with Mark, and then I'm sitting on his boat, and we're going for a boat ride in Tennessee, and he tells me about this amazing project, this community book that he was working on, and you and I, we were together again at CEX just a couple of weeks ago. And when I think of that community building, that here's our world of, content and marketing and community building. But I truly believe that opportunity exists in every industry out there. and that is the company of the future. That's what people want to become a part of. And if it's simply just kind of a hack your way to it, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Because these big platforms they're gonna be quicker. They're gonna spend more than you. They're gonna do all these things to get to your customer before you can. So, I just wanted to share the 25 states later, New Jersey included.
Hey, if only we had known then what we know now. That
we'll do it on the
next round, right? I mean, I think you've hit so many important points in that list, in that last roundup, and it is about the community. We've mentioned it on and off during the day. I think the Rise community and the things that we're doing there, and the genesis of this book, and how all of us got involved. Either by hook or by crook, or raised our hands, or hoped and prayed to be on the list, or wherever you were in that spectrum. I was really lucky because I was the only person to write about strategic communications. But I got the ball rolling on the whole thing. So there was that. But
Nice.
But I think
Well, humble brag.
Sorry. No, Mark gave me permission before I kind of a little bit, but I do think it's like, because it's in so many ways, it's all of our collective, baby to raise. I feel a particular pride of parentage, and I just think you're right on the money. Like that's the way it's going to work moving forward. You have people who you trust based on an affinity and based on a unifying principle and on a communal mission, whatever that mission may be. In our case, it's learning and development and just being good people. And you start off at a higher level of trust, and when it gets down to it, somebody's going to put out a message that says, "Hey, Rob is in New Jersey. Maybe you haven't met him in person, but you guarantee like a few people, and maybe 10 or 20, 30, 60, 70 people are going to come out, depending on what size the community is." So, that's why this book, the most amazing marketing book ever, is already
a sense of button push.
That's right. Button push. The book is already out there. It is the top in its category in Amazon, at least as far as I know today.
Cool.
It's already making a nice, probably thanks to our viewers and our many authors.
My mom's probably bought 70.
Oh man, no, I wouldn't. I think it's just going to be an incredible journey for us all.
Yeah.
So glad you're on it with us, Rob. Rob Lalisher, did I get that?
You betcha.
Oh, Rob
I will answer that bell.
Thank you so
thank you very
much.
much.
It was a pleasure to speak
this
to
was
you.
great. I appreciate you. I appreciate our new friendship and all of that came out of this community.
Absolutely.
Here. So take care, my friends.
Thanks so much.
And we'll talk
I'll
soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Rob Lalisher, and I'm probably going to continue to pronounce his name properly until tonight, and then I'll sleep, and then I'll forget tomorrow and maybe get it wrong from there thenceforth. So, Rob, apologies in advance. I am, so far as you can see, we're here in the middle of our session number 4 of the 24 hours of amazing marketing live stream. In case you wandered here by accident, you're here to listen to and watch some incredible thinkers in marketing communications who have all gotten together to write this amazing book called The Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever. Mark Schaefer and friends. I'm a friend. Got 36 other friends. We have 350 ideas. And the book is available now. So please go grab it when you can. That's of course the sign. Now that I've made my little pitch, it's now the perfect time to bring in our next guest, who I'm so excited to speak to. I've been speaking to her now for months and months and months and months, but never really in person like this, or at the same time, because she has had an incredible, I guess, role to play within this adventure and in writing and editing the book. Joanne Taylor, the author of Chapter 17, Catching Cultural Waves on TikTok, is a writer and editor based in Sri Lanka, and fascinated by all things marketing and the intersection of genre fiction and world mythology. She believes everybody has a voice worth hearing, and I couldn't agree more. I am so pleased to bring in Joanne Taylor to the live stream now. Joanne, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, Dan. Great to see you. I'm really excited to chat to you.
Are those
like
literally
this.
crickets I'm hearing in your background?
Oh, probably. Sorry.
Wow. No, that's fine. I just know, I know you're in Sri Lanka. I mean, you know, Sri Lanka is a jungle and tropical place, right? So it makes sense. So I am, you know, it's authentic people, everybody. This is the way it is in Sri Lanka, and we have Joanne here to thank for bringing Sri Lanka into our living rooms, work rooms, wherever you are today. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for your intro. That's incredible. And adventure is definitely the right word.
So tell us a little bit about your adventure. I mean, you know, I think you're alone in the Rise community as coming from Sri Lanka, and perhaps you can tell us how you ended up getting involved with the book, and you know, how Sri Lanka plays a part in that.
Well, I got involved with the book, like a few of the other authors, through the relentlessly helpful John Espirian, his community, Espresso Plus, and kind of found out about Mark Schaefer that way. And yeah, so the community on Discord, just what an incredible learning community.
Unbelievable.
It was a new platform for me, Discord. So, you know, I had some reluctance at first, which kind of fits with my chapter, actually getting into new platforms. So when I heard about the book, I think at the time I was the only copy editor and proofreader. So, you know, I put my hand up to volunteer. And it kind of went from there, really.
Sure did.
Yeah.
I remember Mark, pardon me, I have my water now. You know, after we started the process, you know, Mark had said that the editing was going to be a bear, right? It was going to be all these different authors, all these different writing styles. That's not going to be easy lift. So how are we going to make that happen? And he said, you know, I can't do it. Like, we need to find some great people to do that. And he said, I know somebody. And he said, you need to reach out to this person. And I thought that that 3 would be a good number of editors, and I am so happy that that's where we went. So at the very beginning, at the outset of the book, we reached out to you. We had Brian Piper, I think, who's either appeared or going to appear soon. And the 3 of us, you know, were, I want to say, randomly assigned chapters. It feels like it, of the book. So, you know, of the 30 something chapters, we each had, you know, a dozen or so to edit. And what a great process and learning process that was. And I will say that, you know, I've always been an editor by kind of default, right? Like, I'm a good editor, natural kind of feel for language. And I've definitely cultivated over many years working in marketing and communications. You know, you need to be a good writer before anything else, I think, but I always preferred editing. But never formalized, you know. I never really said, you know, I don't know all the AP style rules, for example, or I you know, the Chicago Manual of Style is just a big fat book that I have to refer to every now and then. But you, Joanne, you know, you come from a professional editing and copywriting background, so it was really great to have someone on the team who really knew what they were doing for real. I mean, Brian, of course, does too. He's been in academia, but it was just a pleasure to kind of come up with the guidelines and the ground rules and style guides. And, you know, if anybody was witness to the behind the scenes stuff, I mean, they might have said, okay, what are we going to hear from Joanne today? Because that's where a lot of the wisdom really came from for creating our editing process. So thank you so much for that. It was tremendous.
I think we all brought different things to the table, because from my perspective, it felt quite different for me, because you've got such, you and Brian, you know, and like a bigger picture style of editing than I usually have, you know, looking at hyphens and dashes. But you know, so to work together as a team, and you know, with the kind of different levels of editing, that was really, really interesting for me.
So and it was so important, you know, especially coming up with the style guide. And there was a style guide. There was and is a method. It's not just, we didn't say, hey, can you write 1,500 words? There was a real process that we created that I'm sure if we do it again, it will be it will evolve again. But as you read the book, everybody out there who is who's already either purchased it on Kindle, or who is about to buy it by clicking on it right there. It is you'll see that the book is structured so that it is a consistently, I wouldn't say necessarily easy read, but a consistently practical and engaging read. And you feel like you're talking to the people who are writing, and in their minds as they describe what they feel are the things that you need to know about their particular topics, which is kind of what I wanted to ask you about next, Joanne, is TikTok, huh? I mean, people have certain, images of TikTok and what it means to the marketing community, and it's a very controversial channel, right, to say the least.
Yeah.
And you took on what I think was a very tough, a very, very tough assignment. And delivered with aplomb, and with what I'm sure is a brilliant chapter. So first, can you tell us, right, a little bit about, the genesis of this and how you stepped in to pick up on the TikTok chapter, and then where it took you and what your major takeaways are from that chapter?
Yeah, so I didn't intend to write a chapter. Mark emailed me and said, well, it's hard to sum up,
Yeah.
we kind of get an exciting email with an amazing opportunity. I know there's so many fantastic co-authors. And yes, it's a controversial topic, but anybody who's interested in book publishing, everybody's curious about, Book Talk and knows the impact that's had on publishing. So it's something, that I am interested in. Even though privacy and data, things are still coming out, and how I feel since writing the chapter may have changed. How I feel about TikTok, but I completely understand, why people want to use it for their business. It's such a great opportunity. So, when Mark said in his email, I think you can do this, I believed him. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have thought, I can write a chapter in a.
He has a kind of a
book.
knack for spying or seeing what people can do. It comes from, I think, being a teacher for so long, and he has a sort of feeling, I think, and he likes to challenge people. But I was part of that process, and I was overjoyed when I heard that you were taking over the TikTok chapter. Look, I mean, when you work with 30-something people, there's bound to be some challenges and some disasters or some family issues pop up. Things happen, and people need to drop out and come back and drop out and come. And we had a gap, and we had a hole in the TikTok game, and you graciously stepped forward, even though it's not exactly the focus of your life, but then you delivered a killer chapter. So, if people if people watching are thinking, hey, I really need to look at TikTok. Let's put the editorial part aside, and let's put the not the editorial side. I mean the opinion political part aside, and all the controversy aside. What are like the top takeaways you think people should have about TikTok, and why it's important to consider it as a channel?
Yeah, it is definitely worth considering whatever you decide. And I hear a lot from writers, authors, and sort of editorial peers that, I feel like I should be on TikTok, but I don't know where to get started. It feels too alien. But I think the main takeaway from my chapter is that, you can use short form video, even if you might feel uncomfortable. on a live stream and rather be writing sentences. But you can be on short form video. You're allowed. And it's a bit like moving to a new country and learning a new language, I think. Sorry, I can't multitask with the chat.
I'll take care of the chat. You can focus on here, and I'll bring up in the folks that have some comments. I mean, I haven't gotten to it yet because I've been enthralled with what you're saying.
It's all right. It's because it's our colleagues and
it's our
friends
people
that I'm really interested to.
Well, now that you mention it, let's bring up one of them, right? We say that Zach, of course, is heavily involved in the community. The book would have been a shell of its current self without Joanne, Frank, and Marcy's contribution. Frank and Marcy, of course, are major contributors. Frank designed this beautiful cover that you see. It is amazing, and he designed using AI in multiple iterations and going through what can only be called vigorous debate and a little bit of guff. I like the word guff, by the way. And he put up with it all and managed to deliver, we all agree, a dynamite, very standout cover. But yeah, I agree, Zach. Of course, this book would have been a shell of itself without Joanne, Frank, and Marcy. And certainly any of the authors, I think, have such a major role to play in the overall quality and feel of the book and the community vibe that you get from reading it. Thanks, Zach. It's a great comment. Yeah, so it's a very I mean, the book, you got to read it, folks. But if you're going to read about TikTok in Joanne's chapter, without giving too much away, Joanne, comes in to talk about how you can use TikTok to supercharge your impact. I like those words, with relevant audiences. Short form video is probably a really great way to get a handle on that. What were some of the interesting findings that you had about it, and anything that surprised you about TikTok or surprised you about writing the chapter?
Well, I guess like some other platforms, it's not only is it okay to be yourself, it's far better to be yourself. And you don't have to look a certain way or be a certain age. Certainly not anymore. I mean, look at the rate that TikTok has aged up. You don't have to sort of stick with the preconceived ideas in your head of why you can't do it. And for people who do rush in and I already know I can do it, maybe go for it.
We're real here, everybody. We drop things.
We've got crickets and we drop things.
First live stream ever, folks. First live stream ever. I'm going to remind you. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I was interrupting you. Yeah.
No, that's okay. So you can be yourself. You don't have to be a certain age or look a certain way. And you don't have, you're looking for your audience. You're not trying to appeal to a certain, age group in particular, if that's not who you want to talk to. So definitely by being yourself, you're going to get way better results.
Authenticity. It's a theme that we keep hearing today. And or just not pretending, not worrying about what other people think. I'm not on TikTok. I mean, I have an account. I haven't gone down that road. I mean, the fact that this is really the first time I'm really ever on video for an extended period of time should be a clue to why that's happened. But I really do feel, thank you, MKJ. It's so good to see you on the comments, and we love you too. I'm going to presumptuously speak for Joanne here, but yes,
I do.
Yeah. I mean, wait to see some of the work that's coming out of MKJ's area in marketing this book, and in all the work that she's done in her own chapter, and in helping us all to talk about our chapters. But thanks, MKJ. The whole experience of TikTok, I guess, is an adventure in. Well, I mean, it seems like it's either an adventure in authenticity or in deliberate, horrifying inauthenticity or kind of fake manipulation and some terrible
it
things
can
too.
be. You
I said I
need
wasn't
to,
going to go
yeah,
controversial, but there it is.
you need to try. I just think you need to try and ignore that. If people are trying to chase, every little thing that they think is going to get them more followers, well, that way leads to burnout, and it doesn't mean you're going to have a relevant audience. I think you need to play long term and aim to build relationships and, make a connection with your audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody, right? I mean,
Definitely not. No.
and that's why we have so many chapters in the book, because there's, you can't be expected to do everything under the sun for your marketing program. And, but the popularity of TikTok, I think, is like a magnet, right? I mean, it's the big thing. I got to be on TikTok. I got to be on TikTok. I mean, I'll tell you, you don't have to be on TikTok. But if you were to be on TikTok, it just seems that authenticity is critically important. You also, I mean, I think that you took a pretty practical approach in the chapter. And earlier we heard from Laura Doman about like video tips and the things you should do. I mean, I guess on TikTok it doesn't all matter as much, right? I mean, you can just turn it on and go, to relate to your audiences.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason I try to be practical in the topic is because I think video is such a barrier for a lot of people, but then sort of short form seems like another big barrier on top of that. But actually, I think success on TikTok is not as big a stretch as you might imagine.
Really?
And yeah, I
Well,
think I think people don't spend the time there to kind of absorb the culture. I think some people are sort of looking, right, what are the tricks? What do I do? But really go and have a look, because everybody's For You page is so personalized. So me and my sister, for example, are so similar, but our TikTok feeds are completely different. I think so. It depends on your audience. You need to go and find out what's going to appeal to them and how you can communicate your message to them, to the people who want to hear from you.
I
I think.
think there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in something you just said, or a lot of what you just said, of course. But but you said spend time to absorb the culture,
Yeah.
and that to me applies across the boards everywhere. It's a problem that it's a challenge for everybody who is certainly trying to trying to get new customers or grow their business or reach certain metrics or hit certain KPOs or whatever your goals are. You just think, okay, tactically, when I get on this channel, here's what I can achieve, and how can I do it? How can I do it fast? And a lot of marketers, certainly corporate marketers, are under the gun to show results fast. But that moment, that time that you take to, as you say, absorb the culture, I think that it sounds like that could be the difference. Certainly, the difference between dramatic success and immediate burnout. And it sounds almost like something that you might want to advise somebody when they're starting their career, right? And when you think about that, for people who are starting out, or for who are in the kind of younger demo, let's say, it seems like TikTok would be the place that they would probably try to go first. And I don't know, is that the right thing? Do you think that's the right thing to do?
For younger people to try TikTok? I think it's hard to be everywhere at once. Choose the format you love the most. Like, if you're passionate about it and you're enjoying it, I think that comes through. I think in TikTok in particular, if you've got your energy and enthusiasm with you, even if it's only 15, 30-second video, it really comes through. So if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? Maybe somewhere else would be better. And I don't think that's limited to your age group. I mean, maybe if you've grown up with a certain platform, you're kind of going to know the culture better. But then it kind of depends, if you've been using it, following completely different creators to what's relevant to your work, then there's kind of another subculture there. So I think you need to spend time, what are the norms and values? What are people up to? What do people like? So yeah, I'm not sure it's age dependent, but
Sure.
definitely a younger demographic
Yeah.
is statistically more likely to be familiar with TikTok.
Sure. Yeah. I was just speaking from like the anecdotal like focus group of one. I mean, the whole thing of, younger kind of marketers or kind of, let's say, newer marketers, going, we need to be on TikTok. It seems to be like just almost a stereotype now, a reputation thing. Although I feel like with recent news and with the way that TikTok has been evolving, there might be some trepidation now in the marketplace. And it's only natural. I mean, it's controversial, and it's outright banned in a lot of places. But it's still a force. It's still a force. And if nothing else, I mean, as a kind of observer of people and as an observer of I guess of marketing and how we communicate with one another, it's a fascinating study. I just don't know if it's a terrifying study yet. I would almost err towards terrifying at this point, but I know how it captures the attention of people in different ways. But it seems like it's really like using it sort of in a harmless way, and to catch comedy clips and little bits of entertainment. Apart from the fact that it sucks hours out of my time all at once, I'm at least getting sort of fun content, like very nostalgic comedy is kind of what my TikTok ends up being. I guess because of the way whatever I liked or watched at the beginning, and I don't mind that so much. But what I would mind is if I catch my daughter who's looking at it and getting some mixed messages about body image and friendships and morality and so on. I mean, it's tough. I said no controversy. I'm gonna stand by what I said.
Well, yeah, no, it's a fair point. Some things are kind of applicable to all types of media and sort of caffeinated by the power of short form video, of instant clips that grab our attention. I think one of the strengths that make it so appealing for people is the recommendation engine. That your videos have real potential to be seen by people who want to see them, even if they're not following you. So maybe other platforms will develop their algorithms, to something more similar. Who knows?
Yeah. I've had some words recently about recommendation engines and the dangers there for. I think that what I said was they give you a free pass to not be curious, and I do believe that, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to sit there and watch stuff that's delivered to you, and the human in you wants to be lazy or just be receptive or passive about it. And TikTok plays its role, and at least to me, Frank and Marcy have a good comment here. I don't know if it's Frank or Marcy. I'm guessing it's Frank, but TikTok caffeinated hits of video content. That's how I'm going to describe it around. Thank you, Joanne. Again, it's pearls of wisdom. That's why we do this show. So Joanne, before we go, I know we're just really up on time, but any last words for people here? I mean, maybe if you want to sort of get to like your overall experience with the book and how you felt in the end and where it's brought you. And I don't know, that's a lot to wrap up in 2 minutes, but go for it.
Thanks. I think one of my biggest takeaways is that often it's the people who maybe they feel anxious or maybe don't put themselves forward as much, like with writers as well as content creation. Sometimes they're the ones who do fantastic work, and if we don't support them and support each other, we're going to miss out on a lot of important voices. So that's what I love
Here, here.
about this project so much. I mean, what incredible marketers I've got to learn from at an early stage, in my career. So yeah, just a fantastic opportunity, and that we have to allow ourselves a voice. Whether that's on video, short form, or live streaming, or writing. Your story does matter. You do count, and you are allowed.
Absolutely. I think that's such an important message that we get from not only all of our participants and the people who've been writing and our community. That's what the community really is. And, some people don't want to jump up and talk and say things all the time, but that doesn't mean that their voice is any less than others. And we always have to, it's so critical to remember that. Even in the Rise community, I have to say that we keep talking about it because it's important, it's critical, it's central to this book. This book would not have happened were it not for the Rise community. And in many ways, the Rise community would not be what it is today were it not for the experience of writing this book together. It was a bonding experience, but also a professional experience, a learning experience. And I look at what's happened. I mean, this is incredible, this whole thing. I'm live streaming, for crying out loud. It's really important to just sometimes just lay back, and I would imagine that there are plenty of people out there who are just absorbing the culture, to use the wise words of somebody I now know very well. Look, I thank you so much for calling in from Sri Lanka, and I love the decor on your back wall. I meant to say that. I just want to say, Francis says that this has been inspirational, and sometimes we are our own roadblocks. Indeed. And that's true. And look, you inspire us, Joanne. You've inspired me and Brian, I know, as editors. I really think Joanne, the real MVP, joining the live stream at 2 a.m. Gosh, let's not forget that. 2 a.m. for Joanne. Congratulations, or thank you so much, or I'm sorry. I'm not sure what it is. But look, thank you so much for joining us. And I really am looking forward to the next time we're able to connect.
Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Same here. All right. I'm going to send you away now. Bye. All right. Joanne was fantastic. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect and learn more about, how she took her editing approach, but also her own challenge to write a chapter that she wasn't necessarily, thrilled about the topic, but she's a professional writer and a professional marketer, understood what TikTok was all about. And when you read the chapter, you will see that her advice is practical and implementable. And I guess those are kind of the same thing. And look, she's just a tremendous person, and her editing skills are off the charts. And it's been a pleasure to work with her. So thank you, Joanne. I see that there's so much MVP, and Cami says MVP status granted. Absolutely appreciate it. Now, I mean, so we're now a couple of guests. 3? I've gone 3 now. Gosh, the time is flying so fast on this live stream. And apart from the fact that I need to drink a little bit of water, I would never know how much we're actually speaking. So I will take this opportunity to say, pick up the book while I freshen up a little bit here, and drink some water. And as I think about, or as we're about to bring in our next incredible, amazing writer and contributor to the Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever. This is my first time meeting David, but I will, he's just been such a tremendous part of the community, and I love his topic. He's a brand strategist, a marketing consultant. He's the founder of Food Rise Marketing, where he works with food businesses to build their brands and connect with consumers. I am just thrilled here to bring on the live stream my new friend, David Bezek. David.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. How's the audio working?
I can hear you okay. It's a little muffled. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're coming
Okay.
through your mic, but
You know what? I was getting this all set up. I feel like I'm getting ready to launch a rocket ship or something here. So I've got,
you've got all the gear.
I got all the gear, but doesn't necessarily mean I know what I'm doing.
Oh, well,
So as long
it's
as
all
you can
about
hear me.
It's all about experimentation, David. That's like,
Yes,
that's half of the
right.
Rise community. So you're fulfilling your role,
I
as
am.
a,
I am.
as an experimenter. I'm thrilled to meet you in person here. You've been, like I said, you've been a big contributor to the community, and having been involved in the book, of course. So how about we start there? I mean, how did you get involved with this whole big thing, and what inspired you to get to write your chapter on how to build an exceptional brand?
Well, it goes back a number of years. I've been following Mark Schaefer for quite a while, and his podcast is always at the top of my list. One that I always have to listen to. It covers the breadth of marketing, and it's one that I have to keep up with, right? So I've been following him, kind of aware of what he'd been doing, seeing some of his speech, some of his presentations. And when he came out with kind of organizing this community of marketers, I wanted to be a part of it. And I don't know about you, but, I've joined a number of groups, and, you just can't spend time in a group constantly, or you'll never get anything done. But the Rise community is one that I'm in virtually daily. Just like you said, it's an opportunity to learn, to learn from others who are in the industry, and kind of try to up our game, up our level. And so I don't remember how it all started. I think you may have been part of this, kind of coming up with this idea of a book last fall.
Guilty.
Guilty as charged. And when I saw that come out, I thought this is a huge opportunity for me professionally. I've never written a book. I've done a few blogs, but not a lot of writing consistently. And the opportunity to learn and follow this process. I thought, okay, one chapter. I think I can do that. I think I can handle one chapter. Turns out, it was still a bit stressful to come up with one chapter in such an incredible book. But you know what? I went ahead and took the leap and said, hey, sign me up. I would love to do, I put a couple topics down that I was really interested. Branding is one of them. I think Mark kind of helped identify who was going to cover which topics based on their interest and professional background. And so I got branding, which was, awesome, something I love, a topic I'm super interested in. And so, we were off to the races last fall when we started writing. And it's been an incredible learning and educational opportunity to see how this whole process has worked. And like I think so many of others have said in the streams, it's such a unique project to have so many people collaborating on this.
It's really been tremendous. That collaboration, in some ways it surprised me how eager and willing and kind of smooth a lot of the collaboration went. There were always bumps in the road, and there were certainly process issues here and there, but nothing that, at least in my experience, I don't know. I know that some other folks certainly had more work at different times, but it was a labor of love. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to do it because folks like you, David, people really, really got into it, wanted to put out the best product that they could possibly put out. And even editing, I got to admit, we've talked a little bit about imposter syndrome here and there. And I have to admit that as confident as I am as an editor, and as I know, in my bones, you give me a red pen or the equivalent of a track changes, right? And you will have a better product after I'm done with it. Absolutely. I have no question about it. That said, I'm editing people who are, 20, 30 year marketing leaders who, some of whom I've only kind of seen speak or read about, some of whom I've met in different capacities. And I was like, wow, who am I to edit these folks? And you know what? I had to get out of my own way and know what and do the things that I know were the right things to do. And everybody was just tremendously appreciative, cooperative, collaborative in some ways. I'm not sure I agree with that edit. How about this? And we really it was a great process going back and forth. So I'm on the same page as you, David. It was really, was an incredible experience. And, you know, I'm glad you were part of it. But what?
Well, and
Yeah.
Joe, to your last guest was Joanne, and she was,
Yeah.
you know, we had,
She was
I
your
think,
editor.
3 editors, right? And so you were an editor for a group, and Joanne was mine, and was a huge help to me because I struggled a little bit with you know, a little bit of confidence and saying,
Yeah.
you know, I'm tackling a subject that, you know, there are hundreds or thousands probably books that have been written about this topic. And Mark challenged us to say, you know, say something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do I say something new about a topic that is kind of at the baseline, you know, base level of marketing, right? It's not a brand new topic. It's something we've talked about for years. So, you know, there was a little bit of this, you know, anxiety throughout the process. You know, am I giving the right information? Is it helpful? You know, so having that you know, that target customer, that target avatar in mind of who I was speaking to was super helpful. And Joanne, who was my editor, who you just had on, was super helpful, incredible, improved my writing. And then I think the entire book went on to one more final editor who, you know, made some final tweaks. So, you know, that was a, you know, a really good experience. It pushed me a little bit, but it also gave me, you know, it gave me some comfort to know that, you know, what I was putting out there, you know, was good.
And it certainly was good. I mean, branding, right? I mean, you said it yourself. It's a foundational topic. And
Right.
And I mean, how many people have written about branding? Or like, I can imagine because I'm of a similar type where like, what's my standing here? What license do I have? That's the imposter syndrome, right? Gets at you. So
yeah, totally.
When you started to get into it, like, how did you convince yourself that wasn't appropriate, that you didn't need to worry about that you were doing good work? How did you kind of come to like say to yourself, okay, this is it. I know I'm onto something.
Yeah. You know, I kind of went back and looked at things that I have spoken about and written about in the past. You know, I wanted to make sure that I was not missing some key, you know, the other anxiety is like, oh gosh, it's going to get printed. And what if in a year I realize there's some massive topic or part that I totally missed? So just going back and kind of doing some research again, making sure I have the fundamentals that I want to cover in this chapter. You know, it's a chapter, right? You can write books and books about this topic. So we're not going way deep in this. But knowing, you know, and I work with a lot of small business owners, founders, people who are not marketers necessarily. And so that person was in my mind. And I'm thinking about that small business owner. She's got lots of things to do. Marketing is one of them. So how can I give that person tips and some things to think about in terms of branding that will, you know, benefit their business? Each one of these topics that I talked about and these tips that I provided, you know, you could dive in and you could do workshops and you could do tons of research. But my goal was to say, okay, here's a tip. If you spend just a little bit of time on each one of these tips, you're going to be much better with your business and your brand. Certainly you can go deeper if you want to, and you can, you know, bring in consultants and do tons of research. But if you spend a little bit of time on each of these topics, you know, you're going to be better off.
Absolutely. It's like a handbook of sorts for building a marketing function and, you know, understanding.
The whole book is.
The whole book is like that. But I mean, the beauty of it is like 1,500 words, or the beauty, and maybe it's a double-edged sword. Because in 1,500 words, which is essentially a very long, you know, blog post or a medium-sized article, you know, you have to get across 10 ideas that are, you know, hopefully groundbreaking, certainly forward-looking, and you know, in some ways unconventional and things that people wouldn't think about normally, at least not the audience that we're talking about here, who really need the help or who would be very grateful for, you know, somebody whispering in their ear, look, here's 10 things you need to do about this. Right. And I think that, you know, I think that was part of the beauty of this whole thing. Excuse me. But as you were like, as you kind of went through that, you know, what were your top takeaways? I mean, that you can share that aren't, you know, going to give away, that aren't going to give away the store here.
Well, you know, no, I kind of thought about this a little bit from a progression standpoint. So one of the things I said before we get into the tips in the chapter is, you know, you've got to start, if you want to have an exceptional brand, you have to have, you know, a great product or service. And, you know, so that's maybe tip 11 or tip, the pre-tip tip. If you jump right in, so many businesses, some of them jump right into, brand work, and they haven't addressed the actual service or product they're selling. Right. And, you can do all the marketing in the world, but if you have a really bad product or service, it's not going to be sustainable unless you're spending millions and millions of dollars. It really isn't. And so I gave the tips like, hey, let's fix the product or service first. We've got to have something decent to begin with. Then the tips were, some things to think about. And I think it was brought up in a previous live stream about branding and marketing, looking inward and what are you all about, looking outward to your customers and looking around you to determine who your competitors are. Those kind of thoughts, I added a lot of thoughts and questions that you need to ask yourself before we get into a little bit more practical, tactical things about branding.
I think people need that, right? I mean, branding is such a broad, like everybody thinks they're an expert in branding, actually, if you think about it.
Right.
And maybe that's something that you ran into. And you mentioned, or I like that a lot of people think, okay, I got a logo, I have a color, I have a palette, I have a brand. And maybe that's one of the first fatal flaws that happens with a lot of, I think, smaller operators for sure. Mm-hmm. Less so in large companies, because large companies have come to learn the value of brand. But it's really about how it connects to the business, right? And actually, I see Alexandra's back, and so it's not just brand strategy David provided the client, but business strategy. I think that's an incredible point.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, and Zach here putting lipstick on a pig doesn't make a better brand. With the good emoji use.
It's what I meant to say with you're right. Yeah. It is. It does go back to the business, and a part of, I think I even mentioned in the chapter, and it's a common thing that, especially like you said, small business say, I have a logo, then I've got a brand. But I'm trying to get these business owners and marketers to think a little bit more deeply about what a brand means, how you, in a brand expression. I mean, the logo is part of it. It is a very important, expression of your brand. And there is some strategy around that and designing that. And we've all seen plenty of, horrible logos that have been slapped together, and that speaks volumes about that brand. But, taking the time to ask yourself the questions that I ask in this chapter, is going to help you develop a brand. The output is going to be that much better, more thoughtful, and you maybe don't have to go back and fix things next time or down the road when people don't even understand what your business is all about.
Yeah, it's interesting how you have to think of those things together. And I'm going to ask you the question that almost everybody who's talks about branding gets asked.
Okay.
Who gets it right? Like, what are some good examples of brands that get it right?
Yeah, I've got a few personal favorites, and one of them that I think of personally that I like, it's been around for a number of years, but it's the cosmetic company called Lush. Mm-hmm. And what I like about them, they have a really incredible retail experience. Their brand, if you follow their social and their content, they stand for something, which is another point that I bring up. They have a point of view, right? They have a point of view about, ethical and ingredients, things like that. They appeal to a specific demographic. I mean, they've got these things targeted. It's almost like they have, they've got the targets on each one of these things. The experience, they bring this brand to life in the stores. They know who they're talking to and who they're not. Their customer is not just everybody, and that's an important point. So I like what they do. Being in the food industry, and I spent a little bit of time at Whole Foods Market. That's a brand that I've always loved. It's gone through a ton of changes. Amazon purchased them and owns them now, so they've gone through some changes since I was there. I worked at the store level for a little bit, and but again, that company has specifics on who they target, what they bring to life in retail, the brand experience that they have, and standards about what they're going to carry and what they're not going to carry. I mean, those kind of specific things, it means something to somebody. And, when you have a specific target consumer that you're going after, then you can develop that brand all around that person. And it makes your brand much more effective.
Are you suggesting that a brand should have values and vision and be aligned to what they stand for? Gosh, imagine that.
Imagine that. Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting how brands can and companies can develop their brand around a viewpoint or around a particular audience or around their values or a mission and be like completely misinterpreted from time to time. Thank God that happens, because now I have a job as a PR and marketing guy, a PR and communications guy.
Right.
I count on some confusion in the marketplace to keep me alive. But that said, Whole Foods was an interesting case because around me we used to call it Whole Paycheck,
Right.
It had that reputation. But then you'd go in, and that's just simply not the case. Especially, well, since Amazon got it for sure, but it never was.
Right.
Like, there's always something for everyone. But I think they enjoyed that high end kind of reputation to a point. And look, brands, I think they change, they grow, they're sort of organic, right? I mean, they have a life.
Speaking of Whole Foods.
Speaking of Whole Foods, yeah,
good choice. Organic. Yeah, they do. Yeah. And that's one of the points. I think it's one of my tips too, is that, always be, adapting your brand, looking at the market, listening to your customers. That's so key. A lot of businesses, when they start off, they listen to their customers for a while, but then they kind of get going. So to your point, brands do change. And that's something that, marketers and business owners need to be aware of, that there may be some pivots and some changes that they need to take the brand on to make it more effective. That you can just, what you've been doing 20 years ago is probably not going to be working now in terms of the market, even 5 years ago, right?
You'd imagine as businesses shift their strategy, they may have to examine brand as a part of that strategic shift, somehow adapt to the new reality. Oh, look at this. We got a great comment here from the great Andrew Silberman. Keep on rocking. Thanks, Andrew. That's a very pertinent comment. Brands need to keep on rocking, I suppose, when they're doing the right thing. But if they're not necessarily doing the right thing, sometimes the evolving landscape is the hint that they're not doing the right thing. And there's no question there's a lot of change happening right now. Look, the Rise community is nothing if not a place where change is examined under a microscope, where we kind of get to grips with change. And that's where so much of the value of being part of that community is. And that's one of the reasons why this book has happened, because we know that change is happening. And it's interesting because we're writing a printed book in a time of extremely volatile change, but it's not about the moment. It's about the lesson, and it's about the ongoing kind of, tips and wisdom that you can take from this. And obviously some places, some things are going to change more than others, but I think brand is one of those areas that, has had to cope with some huge changes because of upstarts and maybe believability, or how difficult it might be to transmit brand values, and maybe some of the pitfalls that make it more difficult to maintain brand reputation. So how would you advise people now, or, marketers starting out now, to look forward and think about how to build a brand that is resistant to change?
I don't know if you can say that it's resistant to change. I think you have to be flexible and willing to change to an extent. One of the things that I always recommend is you start off by, part of the process is looking at your, what do you stand for? What are your values? What are your non-negotiables as a company? There may be certain things that you're not willing to do. Putting that down in writing, that's huge to help give you at least a North Star in your brand development in the future. Certainly everything could be on the table someday, right? And you could go back and say, it doesn't make sense. We made this decision 10 years ago and the market's changed, and now, it makes sense to change this. Being intentional about that, I think, is the key, right? So, building an intentional brand that is able to be tweaked over time and adjusted as needed based on the market conditions, based on your customers, because, there could be, the negative side of it is you're not willing to change. And the company, you think of some of these legacy brands that this is how we've always done it. We're never going to change. We are known as this company. and we've seen companies disappear because of that. They've not been willing to jump into changing technology. Our customers are constantly changing, and as you look at generations that are coming up, you've always got to be aware of that and what's going to resonate with those people. So, I think being willing to change is key. Mm-hmm. The core points that I think are important, developing a sense of empathy as a marketer, listening to your customers at all times, right? And taking that in and being aware of that with your team. I think those are two important keys for marketers who are building brands.
Empathy and listening. Funny, those are key ingredients of having conversations and
Right.
getting to know people and building emotional connections, which are the things that we keep hearing about again and again from our in our sessions on and off the live stream and through the community. And maybe that's the whole kind of basis, one of the bases of the communities, those relationships and building trust. Brands have a lot to learn from that, right? I mean, how they interact and what they bring to the table. I keep talking about a brand like it's a person. I always think of a brand as having its own life and being,
Right.
Anthropomorphizing it.
I do too. I do too. Ethical conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, look at that, MKJ. Thank you very much. Ethical conversations. What a concept. Well, look, especially nowadays, brands who don't get the ethics right, they're gone. I mean, they will be found out.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. The light is
There are,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're in PR, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
in that, so that long gone are the days when you could pull the wool over the customer's eyes and keep things hidden, and people will turn quickly. So being ethical and being honest,
Yep.
is key, and I think marketers, have gotten a bad rap over the years because of the old style of marketing that was
Right.
was kind of a little.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about ethics and these things that affect brand, because a brand has to have relationships with its consumers and with
Right.
those who support it, and you have to be proud of your brand. You have to be, or at least if not proud, you certainly have to be happy to support it, and it has to align with you and what you're doing in your life. And I think more and more, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that the field of PR and strategic communications has a lot more to do with brand now than ever before. And brand is almost synonymous with reputation, and reputation management, reputation leadership falls into that kind of, narrative, story, messaging zone of where we traditionally have had communicators. So I think that's a call for people who have that skill set to be across marketing and comms to make sure that the brands are able to have that point of view, to establish that position and be, and fulfill their promise.
I think you mentioned you have a background in integrated, you're doing integrated communications, and that's kind of my background. And, when I went to school and that, I think it's even more important now, the integrated communications across every touch point with consumers, that it all is aligned, and that everything that a consumer experiences with the brand is all consistent and aligned with those brand values.
100%. Oh, look at this good one from Joanne here. I agree that empathy and listening are so essential. Absolutely. And Sandy, again, thanks, Sandy, so much. Building trust and relationships are key in marketing today more than ever. Absolutely. It's practically the title of my chapter in the book. But it's really important, for David, I think, to connect brand to what we do on a day-to-day basis, to to the success, to the business, as we said earlier. So before we kind of wind it down, David, we've had some great comments. I see Frank and Marcy trying. Like, it seems that empathy and listening seem to be kind of trigger words, and people like to talk about that a lot. Do you have any? It's me. Frank says it's. I just have to show this to everybody here. Empathy and listening is. Fact clear and humanistic marketing is essential to every chapter. P.S. You were right, Dan. It's me, Frank, though Marcy's listening in here too. Thank you, Frank and Marcy.
Hi, Frank and Marcy.
as always. So David, so as we kind of wind this down, I mean, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything about your experience with the book that you want to touch on? Any words of advice from what you learned as a writer in this process that you want to share with us all here today?
Well, it's given I came into this a little bit hesitant and excited, right? And we talked about some of the imposter syndrome, some of the anxiety throughout the process. I even emailed Mark a couple times, like, "Oh, I'm not sure if what I wrote is, how is this?" Just to get some confirmation. So yeah, I'm super happy about the way things turned out. Looking at the entire book that everyone has written, I'm thrilled at this. I think it makes so much sense for marketers, business owners, people that are marketing. You can just go from chapter to chapter. You don't have to read. You don't really need to read it from front to back. And so I see it as a really useful tool for business and nonprofit, people anywhere that are marketing. Personally, it's given me a little bit of boost and encouragement to say, hey, maybe I should look into writing a full-length book. And I think seeing this process behind the scenes has made it not so intimidating, just from a lack of knowledge previously. So now I've seen how it kind of can work, and so I might be willing to tackle an entire book one of these days.
Well, I mean, I think you're not alone in that. And Zach here saying, I love the fact we were able to crowdsource this book. I agree. But it gives you a little taste, right? And if I can just repeat what I did 26, 28, 34 times, I'm not doing it. Just talking myself out of it as I speak right now. I think it's doable, right? And especially if you have solid ideas and understanding what you've written about David and seeing your highlights, I've no doubt that you have a whole book in you. But right now we're talking about this one book, everybody, the most amazing marketing book ever. And in case you missed it earlier, I love this button. There it is. The most amazing marketing book ever. It's available now, only $2.99 on the Kindle store, and the paperback is available for order. Again, it's a terrific book. You've seen now, I don't know how many we're up to right as of this point, but at least 4 in the last couple hours with me of these incredible authors who are put their heart and soul into this book and really thought about, as David said, thinking about the audience first and what the audience needs and could benefit the most from. That's where you start the brand thinking. That's where David started his writing thinking. And I think, it's absolutely something that you should all go pick up now. David, thank you so much for joining me and for writing the chapter on brand. And we're going to see you a lot more, I'm sure, in the very near future. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. It's been great. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Got it. All right. On we go. Thank you, David Bezek. I mean, what a great topic to write about, brand. I would have been intimidated to write a chapter about branding. And some of my favorite thinkers in marketing come from the branding discipline, and I really think David is carrying that torch perfectly well. And again, another lesson is like we all have some incredible knowledge, and we just got to get out of our own way and end this whole imposter syndrome stuff. So I'm about to bring in the next guest, and once again, in case you missed it, we're here to talk about the most amazing marketing book ever, which is just launched today or yesterday today, available now on Amazon. You can just go to the QR code. Again, 36 authors, 350 ideas, 750 years of experience, $2.99 today on Kindle. But I hate to sound like Pitchman. I feel like I'm flexing my Pitchman muscles a little bit here because I've never done that either. But as you can probably tell, but for sure, go pick up the book. It is just page after page for 212 pages, roughly thereabouts, of amazing advice and in friendly conversational voice that is really geared to help you understand what's important in marketing today. So thank you so much again, David. And now I am so pleased to bring on my final guest from the afternoon, but certainly not the final guest of this 24-hour amazing marketing streaming session. 24 hours of amazing marketing, I believe that's what we're calling it. My next guest here, he works with industry giants and scale-ups to inspire their buyers and accelerate revenue growth. He's an award-winning consultant, author, keynote speaker, president of the National Speakers Association Northwest, and I will add, on a personal note, an extremely capable guide to metaverse properties and understanding the benefits of actually having a metaverse chalet and more. So I'll let him explain it when he comes on. Please welcome now to the hot spot here, the amazing, my friend, Bruce Shear. Bruce, it's good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, absolutely. Coming through awesome. Great. I almost didn't recognize you because, I mean, last time we met, you were an avatar, you know, and although your avatar does resemble you quite
definitely
closely.
Not as cool. Yeah,
definitely not as cool. Hey, it's great to see you, and thank you so much. I mean, you've come in as a writing about measurement, which isn't always the easiest thing for marketers to grasp, or for anybody to really understand, for that matter. But it's probably as a foundational element, the most critical way that you can show your value to the business. So your chapter is again meaningful marketing measurement, and discover new marketing measurement strategies, measuring what matters to drive growth. Well, how about we start there? How were you inspired to write for the book and to write this chapter?
Oh, just I was inspired by my own experience of success and failure as it relates to measurement. So I thought it would be kind of a fun thing to focus on. And also, one of my biggest wishes, to inspire my buyers, my big why is to inspire others to inspire others. So if I can reach out to marketing leaders and help them get better at, and business leaders, help them get better at measuring, the huge, colossal investments in time, money, and energy that they put into their marketing efforts. If I can help them do a better job, gosh, that helps their businesses out, their customers out, everybody wins. So, and measurement is such a critical component of that. So I wanted to offer wisdom tips to help people on those lines. And then also, I was just excited, this whole project, Dan, just learning how to bring a book to market, an amazing book to market, the right way. That was super exciting to be part of a collective. I just learned that it was your brainchild, so I'm super grateful that you brought me to the party. And
wow. I wouldn't call it brainchild. I would call it an impulsive moment. I've been known for those.
I love it. The other thing, it just allowed me to get sharper on the topic. So a big win, I think, for everybody to focus on meaningful marketing measurement. That's the overarching theme here.
And so you said that you got sharper on the topic by writing about it. I mean, of course, we learn by writing, we learn by teaching, we learn by doing. In this case, maybe it was all three of these for you. So what are the top kind of takeaways that you can share, and or what did you learn from writing the chapter? Maybe the same thing. If you can answer both.
I learned a few different things, and also this was pre-Chat GPT and Google Bard. So
by the way, let it be known that
up the sleeves and did some real research on this bad boy.
Well, I think that's you raise a really important point. None of this book was written using AI. None of it. Although, in fairness, when we were discussing what the dedication should look like, it was just when ChatGPT came out, and we were playing around with it, and we came up with a couple of patterns that we then took and evolved into what you see in the dedication. Although the original thing from ChatGPT didn't resemble that, but that's the only extent. And of course, Frank used not ChatGPT, but used Midjourney to create the cover. But sorry, so for that diversion, I thought it was really important to mention that because I hadn't yet. But yeah, it's 100% human content, and measurement. I mean, it's sometimes feels like an inhuman thing to do. But what were the things that you picked up and learned in the process as we were talking?
Yeah. And Dan, just to wrap on the AI thing, in terms of its influence, especially in this modern era that we're entering into, I've done a bunch of kind of look back, looking at Bard and looking at ChatGPT around, marketing measurement, common misperceptions, common mistakes. And the wisdom tips that I had compiled and kind of researched the hard way held up really, really well. So I'm super grateful. There were some things that I learned through doing some additional research post writing, but what's in here is totally solid. So your question again, Dan, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. What were your top takeaways, or the things that you mentioned that you had learned a lot writing the book? So what are the top things you learned, or top takeaways? Maybe those are both the same thing. Maybe they're different. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, or I think you were heading down the kind of a surprising thing that I learned through the research. And one thing which is really interesting to me, one of the big points that I have in the book is don't get snagged by surrogation. And so that concept, what that means is don't get wrapped up around the metric where the metric is king. And there was a Harvard Business Review article around this called Don't Let Key Metrics Undermine Your Business. And they brought forward, if you can remember with me, the old story of Wells Fargo, where they were sued and had to pay multi-millions of dollars to and just total brand erosion through that whole experience. But the big metric for them was growing customer share of wallet. So ultimately they had a whole bunch of people making up fake accounts and showing really well on the metrics, but then got themselves in a heap load of trouble. And I've witnessed this myself as well in the corporate environment where, I had a president a long time ago that was trying to bring forward revenues, was trying to get people in the organization to create paper shells. And it just is horrible. So don't get trapped by metrics. You use them as your friend and help to guide you and get new insights, but don't be held to that per se in terms of creating all that negative behavior. I'm sure everybody who's been around the block has seen some of that themselves.
And those are great. Those are great kind of takeaways or learnings that you got there. I like that idea of surrogation. I mean, I think we all face that. You're under tremendous pressure from either a client or from your business to deliver something. So you create the right metric. You convince everybody that's the right metric, and then you become a slave to the metric.
Absolutely.
I've seen it happen, a million times, and you end up chasing like programs or campaigns that aren't getting done what they should get done, but they're achieving the reach or the whatever. Pick a number, the click-through rate or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, I highlighted one of my failures too, or I've had success and failure. One of my biggest failures is when we started messing around with social media and Twitter, et cetera, years and years ago. I had hired a social media maven, and our focus was on just building the followership, and at the same time, my partners were feeding back to me. I was head of marketing at the time for our firm, and my partners were saying back, "Hey, Bruce, you think you're doing really well here, but you're actually messing up our brand. You're making us look bad out there in the world." So we really just had the wrong focus, wrong thinking.
I hope they gave you the benefit of the doubt where you were able to course correct at that time.
No. We changed that fundamentally. It was an experiment, and that's what I love about this community and this community of writers, Dan, that we're all willing to experiment. And you talked about my chalet in the metaverse and my penthouses, et cetera. Hey, having fun, trying new things, but back to the theme of meaningful marketing measurement, you got to kind of think it through. What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals, and what do you want to be accountable to, and driving the right behaviors?
Well, that's something you just said. Like there was a a comment earlier from Joanne, which really kind of, sticks with me. It's like spend time to absorb the culture. And maybe the same thing needs to be said for measurement is, you need to spend time to absorb what you're measuring, and what the behaviors are that where, which rises to the top, which is most critical to your goals. What are the relevant ones? Otherwise, you get caught up in the surrogation issue. That's a great one too. I'm going to remember that. What are some of the mistakes that you think businesses make often? I mean, you talk about surrogation, but I'm certain there's others when it comes to creating a measurement strategy or measuring wrong or
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And this might tree off of what you were just talking about with David, but I've seen this for years. I still see it, but being traditionally marketing centric, if I could
Mhm.
frame it that way, where, hey, we're the lead faucet or the lead engine for the business, or we just do brand, we don't do other types of activities. And that's one of my big points in this chapter is just to take a more strategic perspective.
Mhm.
In the marketing's relationship to the goals of the business and being intensely relevant there. Thinking about the business objectives and strategies, and then how can we tie some of the marketing activity, focus, campaigns, etc., to that, and then also not seeing marketing as an isolated type of activity, but how are we impacting the customer deciding journey
Yeah.
across the whole cycle from awareness all the way to purchase, and evolving that relationship. How can marketing really bring its talent and capabilities to support that buying journey, and not just today's buying journey but tomorrow's, really building upon that over time, especially in this era of as a service, your business really inculcating and growing that relationship with the customer and the community of customers over time. So that's one
sure.
big thing, Dan. Just not being strategic, just being
Yeah.
in a box and doing very tactical things, and measuring against that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess a lot of smaller organizations might fall prey to that more often. They need to, under pressure to turn around performance right away or show some numbers immediately, or, you get very tactical. Don't think about everything that, that you're supposed to be doing necessarily. But, there's a lot obviously that can go wrong with measurement. I mean, what's the right way to do it though? Like how should a business or somebody, approach creating a measurement strategy, or, maybe like if you look at your own experience, like what was something in the realm of measurement, connected to this, to what you wrote about that, was really impactful, and shaped your approach? Was there any kind of success you could point to that also teaches us what other companies can do for success?
Sure. Yeah, Dan, in a side conversation that we had, my own personal experience,
Mhm.
I was grateful to, with the help of my team and a client, win B2B Campaign of the Year award with Corporate Executive Board.
Ooh,
And
that's a
that
big
was a
one.
big deal. It was amongst enterprise clients. The client in this case was Alcatel-Lucent,
Mhm.
which isn't typically, the North Star brand for everybody.
Still.
And that made it especially sweet to win that award. And just our whole approach for how we did that, it was very strategic. When we won the award, it was right after the last recession back in 2009, so quite a while ago. But what we did is just looked at the circumstances that we were faced with. People, travel budgets were being cut, and I know we're all kind of experiencing that type of behavior right now. Marketing spend was being cut, et cetera. But gosh, we still had revenue numbers that we were accountable to. How are we going to perform well? And so that sparked the creativity of what can we do. And so every year they used to annually bring all their customers out to Paris and wine and dine and show them the capabilities in their executive briefing center. And what we decided to do with the hospitality unit within Alcatel-Lucent was build and Dan, back to our theme of metaverse. Metaverse wasn't being tossed around back then, but we built a virtual hotel.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, so and this is way back when, and huge investment. And what we did is, we thought, hey, if we can't bring the executive briefing, them to the executive briefing center, just counterintuitive, we could bring the executive briefing center to them virtually. So we built this just elegant web property, very app-centric web property back in the day. It was based in Flash, and had people go through a virtual hotel, and we linked technology to how that would drive the visitor, the customer's experience, and then also it would drive the operational experience, and then also how it would drive the financial experience for that hotel, how they would literally make more money because infusing some of these technology answers as part of that overall hotel's operations and how they deliver their services. And it was awesome. So, and then we set our objectives for it. And that's one of the reasons we won the award. And then also some of the metrics that we drove helped us win that award. And it was multi-channel, multimodal. That's another mistake people think about, especially smaller businesses. I see they think about one channel, email versus LinkedIn or whatever, versus you need to have a omni-channel strategy, which we had mapped out how that's going to influence the overarching buying decision journey. We also brought sellers into the fold. So it was a complete journey. It wasn't just the top of the funnel stuff. It was all the way through to closed business. So, so it was really an end-to-end oriented campaign, which helped us stand apart from the competitive pack and win more business for Alcatel-Lucent and again, win the award.
Oh, that's terrific. And it's, the measurement part of that is something that, is probably of keen interest to those watching here, because that's the chapter, and how did you kind of come across any issues with your client about how you define the performance metrics, or did you actually have a really good agreement as to what measures you were going to be successful, like you're going to be held to, and how did you come about those?
Yeah, we had to justify a big investment to put this together as well. So we had some solid business objectives that we were tying into. And again, the organization kind of had its hands tied behind its back. They couldn't afford, and clients couldn't afford the time nor money to be, flying out to Paris and do all that stuff. So we really had to think differently, just given the economic circumstances everybody was in at that point in time. So it was tied to that. And then, so from a measurement standpoint, it was really, more performance marketing versus brand marketing oriented. Again, signs of those times, money was super duper tight. So we really had to justify, around an anticipated ROI for this campaign. So we designed our metrics around that justification. We also, kind of learned some things that we didn't know after making this huge investment. So we kind of did a look back around some particular metrics that we hit that we weren't even purely thinking about up front, but we had enough of a basis, enough of a justification to get the funding and move forward with it.
Oh, that's great. We have a great comment here from Cami. Oh, wow. Early days, very forward-thinking project. I remember people building virtual spaces in Second Life. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. We weren't in Second Life, unfortunately. We thought we were going to be, Cami, but it was too hard to pull off. So we created a microsite instead. It did the job. It was good enough. We flirt with Second Life first and thought, man, no, that's going to be way too much money invested in this thing, based on what we had to work with.
You mentioned Second Life and virtual worlds, and of course, I started off this conversation a little bit by teasing our kind of first meeting in the metaverse, spatial. One of the things I think that comes to mind, and this is sort of a question I just thought of really, is there's all these new disciplines, new channels, new ways of engaging with our customers and our audiences that are just developing every day. It's not just because of AI or Web3, but they provide new ways to kind of to make those, to engage with people. I mean, like it's not just this kind of, here's some words, look at these words, click on the blue thing. Here's a picture. If you like the picture, click on the blue thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's a video. If you like the video, click on the blue thing. So that's oversimplifying the way that we've interacted in the past, however many years. But now, it's immersive experiences. It's actually relying on coming up with very innovative ways to use like chatbots to create experiences for new visitors. I've seen some great things happening out there. The measurement must be off the charts. Like, how would you even start to measure some of these activities?
Yeah, it can be challenging. There's different platforms that have meaningful measurement built into them. And then Dan, over the last year, I've worked quite a bit with a client out of Utah, Salt Lake City area, American Forks, called Domo, which you'll love.
Domo's the visualization.
Yeah,
stuff,
they do a beautiful job. It's a full platform itself. Everything's a platform these days, but it does a beautiful job of tying together data from disparate sources.
Sure.
So you can start to look at causations, adjacencies, and gain true insight by feeding other data sources into the mix and running analytics against that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny with Domo, they've got a number of different use cases across different industries, and I had the pleasure of working with them on shaping some of the stories that they tell to their buyers in those particular spaces. And marketing is the number one use case because there are all these new channels and new behaviors that need to be measured where you could gain insight from. And up and down the value chain. I mean, literally, some of the best marketers have measurement around supply chain, so they can see what's happening there and anticipate that and play that forward into how they go to market with some of their campaigns.
Sure.
What do they turn on, turn off, et cetera. And especially in the retail space, very dynamically. But that all requires pulling in different data sources to be able to do that. So there's no one platform that solves that problem. And that's why I was loving Domo to pull some of that data in. Also, there's some new data sources that are just awesome. I had the opportunity to work with a company called Gong over the last year, helping them with their go-to-market story. And they can start to get conversational intelligence and bring that back into, what are these buyers talking about? What are the trends that bother them? How is our messaging? How are the sellers using it? That's typically a huge blind spot for marketers. And how's that influencing the buying journey? And so they can, set up smart tags, grab that data, look at that, and Gong itself, they launched some new messaging and found a 30% influence on the buyer's journey if the sellers were using it in their selling conversations, which all were not. So it's
getting quite
a really fun.
It's getting
place
so
to be.
So sophisticated.
Some
of what you're saying.
It can be.
It can be.
Doesn't have to be.
There's a lot of big data out there, which is sort of I think we've passed big data now that we're into AI. I mean, it's more managed, or feels like it's more manageable, or more AI is sort of, I think it's now big data is its swimming pool, and it's just kind of like, you're no longer worried about or looking at big data. Now you're saying, okay, I have something interface that's going to interpret big data for me all the time. So I don't, I'm not worried about it as much, and you're not hearing it out there as much. But when you think about all the various things that can be measured, should be measured, and thinking about like conversational intelligence, that brings up social listening, things like this. There's numerous platforms that do it well, and so many metrics and so many trends you can kind of identify. So much depends on the operator, on what Boolean you're using, on what queries you're using. It's garbage in, garbage out, or quality and quality. So in other words, there's so much variability. It's not about the tool. It's sometimes about the operator. But I think what I was really curious about actually was there's a lot you can't measure now. There's a lot of activity out there that is unreachable or invisible to measurement tools, and might only be accessible through good old-fashioned surveys or field research of some kind. Thinking about dark social here, of course, and thinking about like our own communities on Discord. I don't think anybody can measure what's happening within Rise except for the people who have the data within Discord, like probably our admins. That's it. I mean, but it's not an external source could never see how successful for example, I mean, there are certain AI thinkers, I think, that would be really pleased with the way that their material is being shared among our community if they knew, and I think that's a measurement kind of challenge or disclaimer that so many of us have to be kind of always thinking about nowadays. And maybe I've strayed a little beyond the scope of your chapter here, but I think measurement itself is such a fascinating area and so critical to what we all do.
No, I agree, Dan. And there's lucky for us, there's still art and science and how we do what we do. Yeah.
And let's not forget the art. I love that. There's art and science in this, and measurement is as much an art as it is a science. I mean, so we're running up against it here, Bruce. I mean, this has been such a tremendous conversation. Obviously, you're one of our 36 authors to the most amazing marketing book ever, right there. I want to point everybody to certainly again to the QR code, thank you so much for helping me wrap up this tremendous session of a couple hours of speaking with 5 authors. I appreciate you for coming in and bookending it for me. Any last final words before I send you off to your merry way?
Yeah, I think as people read the chapter, I love to use the analogy of a Tesla. Mm-hmm. I spent the extra $8,000 and at that point in time and got the autopilot. But I'll tell you, I've grabbed the wheel so many times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I'm alive to be on this show today with you, Dan. And so my big point is, grab the wheel. Don't set your measurement and just your dashboard and walk away. Stay engaged. Grab the wheel and measure what matters. Like we were saying, you can't measure everything. And some of it's very difficult to measure. Measure what matters, what you think is going to support your business and move forward, and your community, your customers and the community they represent.
Well, I love me a good metaphor. Grab the wheel. Terrific way to close it out. So, Bruce, thank you very much for joining us today. And again, Bruce's chapter is Chapter 7, Meaningful Marketing Measurement, part of the Marketing Fundamentals. When you pick up the book or read it, maybe you've gotten the Kindle edition or already read it. I don't know. But you'll see he's got 10 great tips for you on how to measure measure what you do and deliver value. So thank you so much, Bruce. It was great to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, likewise.
Okay, everybody. Well, oh my gosh, we're here at the end of the session. We heard from 5 amazing, incredible people, and I hope you got a good sense of the most amazing marketing book ever. In case you missed it, this is not the QR code to buy the book. This is the QR code for the Instant Replay Hub. You can go here to watch all of the live stream at any time. And now this is the QR code for the book. And I've only done it I don't know, 60 or 70 times, probably during the course of these 3 hours. I can't stress enough how incredible this journey's been, and what an experience that I would want to I guess repeat and improve on. And I would do it again anytime. I think it's been a pleasure to work with such people. It's been an honor to be an editor. And I am just, again, I'm thrilled to have been able to speak with you all today. The next session is going to start in about a half hour with some more amazing people. And my good friend Chad Parisman is going to be the host. And man, he's a great host, amazing podcaster. And his chapter was podcasting, of course. And I see he's even put a comment in the and I love you too, MKJ. Thank you very much. I'm going to put that out there. See, I got to get the props. Love it very much. Looking forward to Chad's session. Just last thing I'm going to kind of throw out there. There's one question I see, Micah Flemons. I just want to address you, Mike. I'm not sure if we're on the same page here. This is the 24 hours of amazing marketing, and I hope you enjoyed the show. But I didn't want you to think that I ignored your comment. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Again, the next session will be in about a half hour. Once again, I'm Dan Nessel. It's been a pleasure to host you. Thanks so much. And I'd like to invite you to again pick up the book and come back again, watch us again, and reach out if you have any questions or want to pick up the book. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you very, very much.